Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from the Mojo-verse to Earth 616 to the Quantum Realm in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance Assemble,
Assemble.
Volume 157. And what was going to be, what we thought originally was not going to be an uplifting show with news, we got gifted with a whole bunch of interesting news that brings smiles to our eyes and our faces.
No, this is there's some good news this week. There's some maybe not so good news this week, but we'll talk about it. But I'm focusing on that good news.
Yes, we focus on the positive and positive rumors because our lead is a lot of big rumors at that point. But how's your week been, Brent?
It's been all right. It's a short week for me again. I had spring break last week. Only worked 4 days this week. Why? Because I don't mind saying it. I'm having this little sinus surgery tomorrow, and so I'm going to be off for several days again. This is a good thing, by the way. We're happy about this. So that my week has basically been like preparing and reading up on that just for any last minute things I need to know. So that's where I'm at, intermingled with whatever Marvel news I happen to catch and glean that you guys put in the network chat.
There we go. We try to help you out, right?
Always.
Yeah. But this week's been busy. I'm in charge of building our master schedule for the high school I work at. So
Would not want that job.
that's about almost 10 departments with somewhere of upwards. Some departments have 11 to 15 plus teachers in each department. So that's just not one semester. That's the whole year I've got to develop for the next year. So it's a puzzle. I do it by hand. And when I mean do it by hand, I manipulate Google's spreadsheets. So
Whatever it takes.
whatever it takes at that point, and it's almost to a completion point. But my goal is before spring break that will be in a final form, and I've got one more big projects to wrap up. So I've got after tomorrow, 4 days, 4 days till spring break.
Not. I mean, you're getting super.
I'm
close.
getting there. I'm getting there. So, but all right. Well, before we get into this lovely news, we must do the network plug. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 8 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance network on Twitter at GUAPod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. Our $1 tiers are tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job, and then our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive shows. And we, as always, we want to thank our patrons. We cannot do this without your support, but our show just dropped a new episode. We can watch this all day. The Marvel Alliance MCU rewatch, episode 15. Brent, one of Brent's top 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I guess we'll find out when people listen to it. But yeah, Captain America: Civil War has dropped. I do have a fondness for that movie. You know, it's definitely in at least the top half of my rankings. So we'll see where people. I mean, I'm sure anyone who's listened to me for a long time and from fans and stuff, they probably know my overall feelings on that show. But we'll see, and I'm curious to hear what people think of it.
Yeah, so hope you're all enjoying that. But we've also got the DC Alliance guys doing their DC Through the Years rewatch of all the lovely and sometimes not so lovely DC films. And we've got Joe with his Multiverse Minutes and a lot of back content out there for our patrons. So again, we hope you're enjoying all that. And if you want to, but if you can't join us on Patreon, we totally understand. But if you take 30 to 90 seconds to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast, we greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with immaculate packaging, excellent customer service, ships around the world. JP just dropped the newest pre-orders for next 20 or so days. We got Black Panther by Christopher Priest, Volume 2, concluding his epic run on that. Captain America, Return of the Winter Soldier Omnibus. This officially concludes the Brubaker era of Captain America at that point. This is a reprint of the final volume of that. Mark Waid's Daredevil coming back into print. Volume 1 is back into print. Excalibur Omnibus Volume 3. We've got Incredible Hulk. A lot of big omnis from the Marvel side, including all the other publishers. Use that code MARVELGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. Use it as many times. It lets you know you're a listener, and we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. One quick note with Network. I know some of our patrons and listeners enjoy our monthly get-togethers. Unfortunately, we're going to have to postpone that for March. There will be 2 coming in April. Some scheduling conflicts came up last minute for some of the people that were going to be a part of it, but there will be 2 in April. So as soon as we have that locked down, we will let you know, and we appreciate your understanding of this delay. All right, Brent, before we get into the news,
Yes.
we're going to say straight up front, we want to acknowledge the story that Jonathan Majors has been charged with assault and harassment following an arrest in New York City. However, since the story is still evolving, and we will hold back commenting further on this until we have more concrete facts. It is an evolving story every day, which seems to be either, both sides are dropping information of saying one side or the other, but we are not going to speculate. Brent and I are not going to speculate anything regarding his future in Marvel, because it will mitigate the seriousness of this case, and that's what we want to focus on. Like, not the future, it is what is going on with this case. So that is basically our final word on this until we have more concrete information that Brent and I feel that we wish to report on.
Yeah, I feel like to talk about where he is going to be with Marvel just trivializes the whole incident. It's not. I feel like it pays disrespect to really all sides of the part of this, because it's still up in the air of what actually happened. And so let's get some concrete info, and included with concrete info about his future with Marvel. And at that time, we can talk about it. Yeah, but for right now, let's move on to other things, that aren't, criminal charges and things like that.
Exactly. So, but for those watching live, you can tell by the banner, we're talking about our favorite devil in Hell's Kitchen at that point, Daredevil. So our main lead story tonight is coming from big rumors and revolving around Kingpin and his role and what is going to be possibly going on with him in Daredevil Born Again. And this is coming from the Cosmic Circus. So we got a lot of different things. We'll kind of tackle each one of these respectively, because I know we both have a number of things to say. According to their sources, the rumors regarding Fisk seeking a political seat are true. However, this plot point will not occur only if one project can immediately be resolved in the same project. The storyline of Fisk seeking the mayoral seat of New York City will be explored in many projects directly while potentially affecting other projects indirectly. So he is running for mayor. That is what the rumor they're pointing to. And this has been a recent part of Chip Zdarsky's run, and even before that, Charles Soule's run, where he did win the seat for mayor, but it continued into Zdarsky's run. And it seems to be they might be borrowing from Soule and with Zdarsky about that. So what do you feel about that?
I love every bit about this. Like, you can okay. First of all, let's go ahead and acknowledge it's from My Cosmic Circus. This isn't Deadline. This isn't Variety. This isn't The Hollywood Reporter.
They do have a good track record.
What this is somebody who's been getting a track record. Who, as I was telling some friends, I will not discount them immediately. They're not. We got this covered. Who I immediately say, nope, you don't count. I need to hear from someone else.
Big giant freaking robot.
This is somebody that I need to see. I need confirmation still, but this moves the needle in the direction of, I think I really might get, maybe not my exact Spider-Man, Daredevil, Punisher versus Kingpin scenario, but I think I'm going to get something in the it's looking like I may get something in the neighborhood, something in the ballpark. And you know what? I'm okay with that, because we're looking at a potential of Kingpin versus the street heroes. And I love the street heroes. And yes, I know Spider-Man has been known to do the cosmic thing as well, but he is at his heart a street character first. He just is one that can play well in other types of stories. But Daredevil, both Hawkeyes, the Punisher, the definition of street heroes. And versus Kingpin, who for the street villains has got to be the biggest, right? The top dog. I love, please just make this rumor happen. I will take it as is. No notes. I will be there with a smile on my face for probably multiple viewings that first day. Let's do this.
Oh yeah, and we got S-Bubs in the chat saying we've already seen people with fist merch and foam hands when Born Again was filming in Times Square. So yeah, It's
Okay, I had not seen. I've seen a fair amount of set photos. I haven't seen that one, but that gives credibility to this story. So that's fantastic news. Thank you for that, S Bubs. I love hearing that.
And so continuing on, like one source says that the storyline will mirror elements from the Dark Reign storyline from Chip Zdarsky that just wrapped up last year. The story of Fist's path to mayoral election is expected to start in the upcoming Disney Plus series. It is implied that the street level stories of the MCU will be tackling more mature themes, similar to how the Netflix was. And the mayoral campaign will be beginning, they said, during the Echo series. Given how one source described the Dark Reign arc as one of the inspiration to the storyline, it is likely that at some point in Daredevil Born Again, Wilson Fisk will succeed and be elected as mayor of NYC. Man, that's going to it's going to hurt Matt Murdock in ways that, yeah, that's going to be a painful realization for him.
I mean, don't the best stories with Daredevil hurt him in several ways? Like, it sounds so bad to say, but I want to see the pain, you know? It's like he does. I know, of course, he does have the more lighthearted stories, you know, the swashbuckling as has been depicted at times, but still, if I'm hearing that they're going to put Daredevil through the ringer, I'm not surprised, and two, I'm here for it.
Yeah, and with that kind of going along with that, as for how the story will be explored, they say in projects directly, one project they've heard is Fist Mayoral Run will be essential elements in the upcoming Spider-Man 4 film. And as they've mentioned previously, the story will be affected by the aftermath of Daredevil Born Again. At the same time, they could not discuss exactly what the aftermath was. So as they were hinting towards, this is not going to just affect Daredevil. It's starting in Echo, bringing it to Daredevil, and now possibly Spider-Man 4. I mean, that's just music to our ears, Brent.
Oh my gosh, yes. And you know what? I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I need to like look up the timelines of when Spider-Man Far From Home and Spider-Man No Way Home were announced, like officially, not scoopers, but like formally announced by it'd be by Sony, really, because I'm just wondering, like, at which point, like, when are we going to get that official announcement from Marvel? Or from Sony? My best guess would probably be around San Diego, but in the past, I don't think it was ever announced at San Diego Comic-Con. I think it was done via press release. So I feel like at some point, sooner than later, like it feels like almost any day now, we could get that announcement. Maybe not until after Across the Spider-Verse, so you don't take away any of that Spider-Man's thunder. But it feels like we're within the next couple months, we're going to know definitively. And I hope I'm right. Not the whole premise of just, you know, Spider-Man 4, it's happening.
S-Pub's saying in the chat, has there been a continuing storyline like this one before in the MCU besides Avengers level stuff? I'd say maybe on very small plot points and things that they refer back to, but not like this where it's affecting in this level. You're right. Outside of Avengers stuff, I don't think that there's been something like this.
Yeah, I want to say that Kingpin being the mayor did spill out beyond just Daredevil. That I feel like there was some stuff involving the New Avengers era with Bendis when he was writing them.
Well, he's talking about the MCU.
Okay, my fault. I was thinking of the comic runs before in the MCU. Then, well, I mean, the Sokovia Accords, if that counts, would probably be the biggest thing that I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
But running themes throughout. I mean, you could make an argument for the Winter Soldier, but I feel like I'd be pulling a Reed Richards on that one to get to the Winter Soldier. So no, not quite like this. I mean, well, I was gonna say Thanos, but that's Avengers stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But Thanos is probably the closest they've done.
But I do like in the sense of like this will be its own kind of pocket affecting it. It's not like a worldwide kind of thing. It's New York City. Yeah, New York City is being worldwide when its own right, but like this will be very kind of contained in a sense, you know, to New York City. They kind of go on and say that several of their sources have informed them that Kingpin's true motive for this mayoral campaign is to crack down on the work of street-level vigilantes that could threaten his power. While there are a number of characters on Fist's list, some old, some new, they are being told that characters like Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, Matt Murdock, and Spider-Man are at the top of his vigilante list. Considering that we haven't seen Spider-Man interact yet with Kingpin, Ooh, we're getting closer and closer. Yours, mine's wish to see Spider-Man and Daredevil interact.
There was a comic book convention, and forgive me, I don't remember where it was at. Maybe you saw this clip. I don't know if all the listeners did. I saw reports of it saying that Vincent D'Onofrio said something to the effect of Kingpin may get the chance to kick Spider-Man's ass, something along those lines, paraphrasing, right? And I said when I saw these tweets, no, that doesn't good enough. I need the actual clip because these aren't attributed to anybody. They're just saying some random person said it, and they're not even tagging the account in questions. I'm like, no, I need to see the clip. Well, a couple days later,
you a gift.
A couple days later, yeah, you got the clip, like the actual clip. And so I don't know, like you add all this up, SBub seeing stuff about the merchandise and set photos. You know, we know these are all in active production right now. Multiple sources, and for a while have been saying there will be something with Kingpin and Spider-Man. Yeah, right now, you know, check your hopes. Don't get them up too high, but I'd be lying if I told you mine weren't on the rise.
Yeah, I mean, look at the possible, like his election could affect Armor Wars, Captain America New World Order, Thunderbolts. I mean, they all can be coming through New York City. And if he's outlawing any kind of vigilantism at that point, you know, some of them could be in his crosshairs.
Yeah, and that might be a little weird to outlaw being a vigilante right after the Sokovia Accords. But we know the Accords are no longer a thing because Daredevil tells us that. Well, Matt Murdock tells us that in She-Hulk. I actually just watched that episode again the other day. Gosh, it's good. But I don't know. Like, just everything about this story sounds fantastic. And how do I put this? One of the criticisms of Phase 4 and leading into Phase 5 has been people think that there's been like this big, huge lack of connection. Now, I would argue there's been more than people are giving credit for, but they think that the MCU is not as connected as it was in the Infinity Saga. This kind of storyline, Kingpin going after the mayor and going after the street heroes, Hawkeye, Echo, Daredevil, Spider-Man. This is the kind of storyline that does spill across multiple projects or could spill across multiple projects and show that connective tissue between them. And it, honestly, for me, it heightens the amount I'm looking forward to all of them. I'm still looking forward to Echo because of Echo's story, and I think she's a great character. But if this is going to play into the larger story as well, or a larger story as well, even better.
Well, especially where we left, like, you know, Echo pointing a gun at Wilson Fisk at the end of Hawkeye. And we heard gunshots. We didn't see the after effects. I mean, some of the set photos that I've come across at that point, not spoiler by any means, but he doesn't look like, at least right now, it doesn't look like he's wearing an eye patch or anything like that, at least in the set photos that I've currently seen. So
yeah, and I guess it's worth noting that Marvel does have a history for hiding the eye patches. They did that with Thor.
That's true.
At the end of Ragnarok. But you're right. At least the set photo I saw of Kingpin, no, like you would not have thought he was injured that way. I want to mention another thing related to this that really stuck out to me that neither of us have brought up yet. The rumor is both Hawkeyes, Clint Barton, and ever since not his accident, not Jeremy Renner's accident, but ever since the Hawkeye ended, there's been this out there question of, did we truly just see the passing of the torch? Is Clint Barton done? Is he retired? Is Jeremy Renner retired? Then, of course, he had his horrific accident, which thankfully he seems to be rehabbing from and coming back from quite well. If you've seen some recent updates he's put out there, there's actually going to be a documentary about it next week on the 7th on Disney+. I'll definitely be checking that out. And just to me, the fact that he was physically well enough to do that documentary is a great sign. I don't want to belittle what he's gone through, so I'll just say if he is able to continue on as Clint Barton, I would really be happy with that. If he's not, you know, of course I understand, but it was just interesting to me that these rumors included him.
Yeah. You know, going back to Vincent D'Onofrio and not Donofrio. I laugh every time the Geekverse guys do that.
Bless their hearts.
Yes, bless their hearts. He says that the new show will be different to what fans of the original are expecting. However, it is also something that will provide gigantic payoffs in both its first and second seasons. D'Onofrio adds Bernthal will play a major part of the show. Now, plans for a second season have been set in motion, according to D'Onofrio. And the Twitter scooper, My Time to Shine, Say Hello, responded that he means it will be a split season, a.k.a. half now, half later. So we're not going to get all 18 episodes at once. 9 episodes, which is what was always like when Kevin Feige said last year at SDCC 18 episodes. I always in the back of my mind that it would be great, but I think that again, it's all about driving the subs to the platform. If you put all 18 episodes out there, you got to keep them coming back for more. So I'm if it's a split season, so be it. It's fine with me. They'll have the time to kind of spread it out.
Part of me almost wants it to be a split season, and they could, if they wanted to go a 6-episode arc, split it into 3. Granted, I don't want everything to be 6 episodes as we've talked about, but I like the idea of it being split because don't get me wrong, that would be 18 glorious weeks in a row, right? And I would love every second of it. But then
we'd have like 2+ months worth of content.
But it'd be even more than that. But then it'd be done, right? Then it'd be done, and it'd be like, well, when am I going to get to see these characters next? If they do, here's 6 to 9 episodes, and there's 6 to 9 episodes. That it just spreads it out a little bit better, right? Like it just, and I think that's a good thing. One, it can give more time to the production side of it, but more importantly, it just delayed gratification, right? It's like I don't need all the Daredevil. They don't need to shoot their Daredevil wad right up front. Like just spread it out a little bit, and I think that would be fine.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So I mean, that was a lot of juicy news coming from Cosmic Circus. So we'll see. Some of it's already looking like it sounded more true. That Spider-Man rumor, and I like it that it's going to be affecting a number of projects, the mayoral race and what he wants to do with it. I just, we're all waiting for him to say, "When I was a boy."
When I was a boy. Yes.
So, but all right. Well, we're going to take our first ad break before we get into the rest of the news. So, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they could be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So, all right. Well, after we did our episode last week on covering our main story being Victoria Alonso leaving Marvel Studios or exiting or being fired, whatever you want to go with, the war of words continued and more interesting kind of back and forth started. Now, we'll kind of take you through this one. Hollywood Reporter came out on Friday, I believe, and said that according to their sources, Alonso breached a 2018 agreement that included the company's standards of business conduct, which states that employees cannot work for competing studios. Sources say that Alonso did not ask permission to work on Argentina 1985, nor did she give notice. However, an IndieWire piece published last month on the film stated that she did have permission. When Disney found out about the project and the violation, her longtime service and veteran status led the company to give her a dispensation on the condition that she did not work on the movie any further. She was also not to promote it or publicize it in any way. The situation of a top executive working on a movie outside the company confines was deemed serious enough to involve management audit team, and a new memo was signed, according to the Insider. And obviously, Disney is not going to comment on this. But this is where we got our first side of looking at Alonso coming out to comment on this. Now, this was Alonso's attorney, Patty Glazer, who released the following statement after the initial publication of this story. They said, the idea that Victoria was fired over a handful of press interviews relating to a personal passion project about human rights and democracy that was nominated for an Oscar in which she got Disney's blessing to work is absolutely ridiculous. Victoria Alonso, a gay Latina who had the courage to criticize Disney, was silenced. Then she was terminated when she refused to do something she believed was reprehensible. Disney and Marvel made a really poor decision that will have serious consequences. There is a lot more to this story, and Victoria will be telling it shortly in one form or another. So let's kind of deal with, we got 2 things right now. We've got Hollywood Reporter saying that according to their insider, she was basically terminated for violating the agreement by working and promoting the film that she was a key part in producing, Argentina 1985. Her attorney is saying, no, that's just a cover story. There's a lot more to this, and we'll let you know, but this is just a cover. What's your feeling on it?
Okay, if you listened last week to when we talked about this, you might remember that I mentioned when you're dealing with anonymous sources and insiders, you have to take into account like the potential motivations behind those sources, right? Are they someone who's out to make Alonso look good, or is it someone who's out to make Alonso look bad? Whatever the case is. Last week it was people claiming that Alonso was really hard to work with. This week I'm going to say the same thing is true on the other side. Basically, the report is insiders say that Disney told her she's in breach of contract. Again, insiders say there hasn't been an actual dedicated source yet. Now, that said, since then, Disney has actually come out and said she breached contract. Like they did have a statement, but they didn't go into any details. Insiders have said that Disney has written documentation of this, that they have told her she needs to stop, that apparently she started, they found out, they said, okay, that's it, you're not getting fired, but you're done working on it, nothing else, no promotion, no producing, no nothing, you're done working on it. And she allegedly continued to do it. Now, the claims of these insiders, they do mean a little more to me, I'll be honest. And the reason why is they're claiming to have actual physical documentation, written letters, memos, emails, whatever. That's something you can produce. That's something you can show. That said, if Alonso is what she's, her reps are saying that she had permission to work on it, well, they should also have some sort of written thing. And you know what? I'll just say it. If all she got on that was verbal, that was incredibly naive, and she needed more than that. We'll get to what the reprehensible thing might be. And I question if it is, but what it might be. But it's worth noting that breach of contract is going to be a fireable offense. And Disney referenced it. One of the articles I've read on this basically referenced she was terminated with cause or for cause or something along the lines, basically saying she breached contract, so she should not get severance or anything. If they don't prosecute's the wrong word. If they don't enforce this breach of contract, then what is to stop other people from breaching their contracts and saying, well, you let her off the hook? Now, that said, the reverse is true. Maybe other people didn't have their contracts enforced, and Alonso can throw that back in her face. Like, I don't think this is a black and white situation. We're still getting a bit of he said, she said on it, but the whole situation sucks. It just sucks. I hate seeing Marvel go through this. But you know what? If she really did breach contract, fine. If she didn't and she's getting scapegoated, well, that sucks too, and that's a different kind of crappy. Just the whole thing sucks.
What is interesting, like she was on the red carpet promoting Wakanda Forever and Argentina 1985 during this time. Supposedly she was reminded before this that you're to cease this, you're not to do this. To your point, they can produce this if it was more than verbal. But throughout the last year, Marvel was putting out a series of movies, and the general impression emerged that VFX artists were not being well treated. And so as they're putting her out there, like as she's doing this, and supposedly, I'm saying like the insinuating that you're out there promoting this project and not doing the job we hired you to do in keeping VFX. That could be what they're kind of going with. Now, later on, either the same day or Saturday or something, I can't remember, this was coming very quickly back and forth. Variety puts out that saying a source close to the matters also says that following Alonso's remarks at the 2022 GLAAD Awards, in which she called out then CEO Bob Chapek by name in reaction to the Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, she was told that she could no longer do press for Marvel projects. In a statement sent to Variety after the story was published, a Disney spokesperson called the comments by Glazer unfortunate. So this is the first time we're hearing Disney hit back, saying, "It is unfortunate that Victoria is sharing a narrative that leaves out several key factors concerning her departure, including an indisputable breach of contract and a direct violation of company policy," says the spokesperson. "We will continue to wish her the best for the future and thank her for the numerous contributions to the studio." This is the first time Disney has said anything in over a week when this came out, Or take it back. It wasn't over a week. It was just it was like 72, 96 hours, something like that.
Yeah, Disney is going to be very careful about the response. They're not going to say anything. But the thing about this that gives me pause is if she spoke out against the Don't Say Gay bill, and that's what led to this. Why did it take so long? I mean, the CEO that she supposedly offended has been ousted. So
Mm-hmm.
why like I just right now in the information we have, I don't buy the narrative that she spoke out against Disney and Bob Chapek regarding their handling of the Don't Say Gay bill, so that led to her being fired today. Like
So
I'm not making that connection.
yeah, so let's get to what you're hinting towards and what the final link in this of this the saga is becoming. So this is coming from the Hollywood Reporter. Some insiders at Disney believe that the quote-unquote reprehensible act referenced by Glazer was a request to censor gay pride references in the latest Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania for the Kuwait market, sources tell the Hollywood Reporter. In January, as Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was being readied for release, word came down from Marvel executives that they wanted an editor to blur out storefront window that featured rainbow decorations and the word pride for the version of the film being released in Kuwait, which has restrictive anti-LGBTQ laws. The storefront was shown in 2 brief scenes in which Scott Lang walked down the San Francisco street. Alonso, who is gay, was an outspoken proponent of the inclusion of that during her time at Marvel. She publicly challenged, as we already talked, Bob Chapek. And the Quantumania request reached Alonso, who refused to have her team make the edit as part of her duties of overseeing the visual effects and post-production. And Marvel then went out to an outside vendor to ensure that happened. Now, we have seen this happen with this. Disney has been incredibly inconsistent. They sometimes take stands, like with Wakanda Forever, and saying we're not changing what we're doing. We're not getting rid of, as we're seeing. I can't remember the 2 characters that had that, or
It's a Io and Anika.
Io and them kissing, having a relationship. But in this case, they'll censor it. Like, they are very hypocritical when it comes to this, and I, being Alonso being a lesbian at that point, this is very personal to her. I see that. And then and if this is what the reprehensible act is, I can understand why her lawyer would use this word, why she would use it. This was reprehensible. She didn't want to do it. It is something that Disney and many other companies out there, they don't take stands because when it comes down to it, they want the money. And they'll compromise what they say in one way and compromise it in another to get the picture out there.
Okay. I realize what I'm about to say could be misconstrued. So before
Okay.
I do, let me be very clear. Disney and all the movie studios should absolutely not bend over backwards to placate these bigoted censors, bigoted regulators, bigoted countries in some cases, but really not the people, but the people in charge, right? They absolutely should not do that. I genuinely believe that. It's backwards thinking, and sometimes I think that it should be, granted, it's not my money, but some things should be bigger than money, and I feel like that's one of them, especially when you've made as much money as you have, like Marvel Studios.
Yep.
That said, why now? And what I mean by that is, like you said, Marvel has done this with, at this point, possibly dozens of movies. They have made little edits and changes and removed these kind of references so they could play in various international markets. This unfortunately is nothing new. Does Alonso push back usually on these things? Because if she does, why is this time different? And this is when they fire her using the breach of contract as a pretense. Like, what was it about this time that made them decide to do it? If she doesn't normally push back on these things, if she normally just oversees the VFX changes and that's it, what was it about this one that made her take her stand? It was the straw that broke the camel's back. What was it about this that made her say she's not going to do it, that they're taking it too far? Especially because if you really think back about Quantumania, like, it was like I had to think about where this scene was, right? Like, I'm like, oh, okay, it was super early, and I think it involved Cassie, and like, it just, there's not, frankly, cis straight white man, it just felt like a nothing thing, like that it was even in there. This just raises more questions for me. Why now? Like, why was this the final straw? And I don't understand it from either side.
Well, here's the other thing too. Like, when we covered this last week, when we talked about this last week, my biggest thing was, and then the Argentina news came out the next day after we recorded. It's very simple in the sense of, we can't ignore the positive impact Alonso has been a part of building Marvel Studios. Absolutely. She has something, But when you are put in charge of overseeing the VFX for these projects, and one of the biggest complaints of Phase 4 has been the VFX and the inconsistency of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's your reason.
It is
That's it is. So the fact that we're getting these leaked things to people like Hollywood Reporter, which these leaks are coming from Disney, and they're going to credible, Hollywood Reporter and Variety to put this out there.
right.
They're trying to change the narrative, but it's just like, why are you going down this route when, again, I'm not in the business, I'm the outsider, this is just my commentary on it. If that's the biggest complaint and she's in charge of it and nothing's changed, then that's the breach of contract. It's just you haven't been measuring up.
And it's interesting because some of the reports had said that she took PTO, paid time off, to work on this film. Okay, so she's doing it on her own time.
Yep.
But if she's doing it on her own time when her department is presumably having issues and floundering, that's still a bad look.
Yes.
And let me be clear, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon of, the MCU VFX has been horrible. Like, most of it hasn't bothered me. It's been a few things, most of it hasn't bothered me. But the narrative out there is absolutely that the MCU VFX has been trending downwards.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are someone who buys into that narrative, and that could be someone at Marvel Studios or at the Walt Disney Company, it sure looks bad to have your person in charge of those gone, even if it is their PTO. Like, it's still, and I know there's this big push to, like, it's your paid time off, you should be allowed to take it when you want. That's true, but your work still has to be done. And so it's like, if it's not a kind of position where someone can literally sub or fill in for you, your work still has to be completed. That could potentially give them, so maybe those people really were upset with Quantumania VFX, and they said, okay, this is the final straw.
Yeah. And again, we've said it last week, we'll say it again. One of the first questions Kevin Feige is going to get asked when he starts promoting the next project, being right now Guardians of the Galaxy, he's going to get asked by Victoria. More than likely, he's going to give a very political answer. He's not going to go into too much depth because he is that kind of person. He is never known to go outside the company that he's working for at this point. But there is some smoke there that the fact that the rumors are saying that he didn't come to Victoria Alonso's defense when this was put up, that kind of sends waves in my mind saying it may be more that they had kind of had a falling out and he didn't want to save her in that sense.
I know that's something I had been thinking about last week as well. Like, his silence is deafening, basically. And again, it's not to say he immediately endorses firing her, but he didn't stop it either. Yeah. So that's where we're at now. And I told you last week, it's like, I don't want this to be the main story. I hope like this story can, not that it needs to go away. I would like to know what happened, but I would just never going to happen when you're talking about things on this level. But I just wish it could be done tomorrow. I can just read about what happened and have it be done. Reality, it's going to be finished because we're going to find out that they settled out of court and nobody's ever going to truly know.
Exactly. Except in her book that she's writing, apparently. So,
but even that, which is being published by a Disney-owned company, has already been written. Yeah. Right. Like, I'm sure there's edits and stuff, but like, it's the main bulk of it's done. So I'd be a little surprised if she's going to jump in,
get that special edition with the added chapter, right?
Right. Like that would that would kind of surprise me. And you know what? Good PR, because I'll be honest, before all this, I didn't know she was writing a book. I had no idea.
Yep. Free press, right? Free.
Yeah, that's right. No such thing as bad press.
Exactly. So, all right, let's move on from this to some exciting and positive news. Liv Tyler returns to Marvel for Captain America 4. This is coming from the Hollywood Reporter. 15 years after starring in The Incredible Hulk, Liv Tyler is making her return in Captain America 4, currently titled Captain America: New World Order. She will reprise the role as Betty Ross. Ross is the daughter of General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, who was being played by William Hurt, is now being portrayed by Harrison Ford. I can't wait for that interaction at that point. Dad, what'd you do with the mustache?
Have you seen the set photos on this?
I'm sorry. bring her it brings joy to my heart.
So DC Outlaw said something kind of funny. It was some I should have bookmarked it. It was something to the effect of it. So it's Harrison Ford in a suit, right? Like just
Yeah.
walking on the street. And I'm like, I think that every time these superhero movies, they're like, first look at so and so, and it's like them in their civilian clothes. It's like every time. Like, well, yeah, they just look like Harrison Ford. But what I told him and what I'll tell you is it's exciting that Captain America New World Order is in production. It's exciting that we are seeing those set photos that they're out there. And yes, I for one,
as Pubs, you're gonna get us both in trouble.
I for one, as Pubs, they're gonna do a reverse Henry Cavill. Nope, I'm not taking the bait. I for one am very, very glad that Liv Tyler is coming back. Right, like if they have decided to recast, fine. It's not. I wouldn't be crying foul about it. But when it's an option to keep the same person, I certainly prefer that. And I think it's great that she came back. And I actually told my wife last night, I was like, just so you know, before the next Captain America movie comes out, whatever movies we rewatch, Incredible Hulk is probably on that list. And she's like, okay, that's fine. I think she's forgetting that the last time she watched it with me, she told me she didn't really like that movie that much.
And she'll say halfway through, didn't I tell you? I just realized I told you I didn't like this movie.
yeah. But I will probably revisit it again. But because, I mean, it'll be quite a while since I will have seen it by the time that comes out. Because I watched it for our Patreon show for we could watch this all day. And that's the last time I've seen it. And that's probably the last time I will see it until the rewatch.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we've got, the leader coming back into play, and all this different, we're bringing in all these legacy, bringing him formally back into the MCU. We haven't seen, Tim Roth playing the leader, and we haven't seen Liv Tyler. She's not even referenced when Mark Ruffalo comes back in at that point. So, the fact that we bring Betty back in is going to be very interesting. You almost expect to get some sort of comment. And we haven't heard any confirmation of Ruffalo even being in this project or cameoing this project. So it'd be very, very interesting to see, is this something that they're trying to keep quiet?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but with set photos and stuff like that, like we know that's all happening. So I don't know. So I do wonder what it'll be like to see Ruffalo with Harrison Ford, because obviously that's no longer William Hurt, and playing that part, and with Liv Tyler, like it's three people. It's all the same characters as the Incredible Hulk, but two of the actors are different, and in one of those cases, that actor has been in way more than the original actor ever was. Just the whole situation is going to be kind of funny. I feel like there's a good what if episode in there somewhere, but I don't know.
Espub saying, with her as now the president's daughter, it makes sense for her to be in New World Order. I mean, potentially, it does. Yeah. It very much does. Harrison Ford is one of my favorite actors of all time, and just seeing him just be in an MCU project. Yeah, it wasn't on my bingo card, but I'm there day one for Indiana Jones. Again, I think we all were just thinking like, oh, is he going to say "get off my plane" at that point and Red Hulk out? I can't wait.
Well, what I'm wondering is someone else gonna Red Hulk out? Just saying, if you're not aware, look up the Red She-Hulk in the comics and go from there.
Gone through some interesting changes, Red She-Hulk, to say the least, especially in Al Ewing's run. That was quite a different look.
Yes, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
All right, well, continuing on for our last story of the night. This broke yesterday, Wednesday. Marvel's Thunderbolts adds Beef creator Lee Sung-jin as writer, and this is an exclusive from Variety. Lee Sung-jin, the creator and showrunner of Netflix Beef, is joining Marvel's upcoming Thunderbolts project as its new writer. Lee is stepping in for Eric Pearson, who was the writer of Black Widow, who was the first announced writer on the project. Lee was previously written for Tuca and Birdie, Dave, and Silicon Valley. Thunderbolts will be his first writing credit on a produced feature film. The gig is a reunion with Beef director Jack Schreier, who is directing the Marvel movie, and co-star Steven Yeun, member of the film's sprawling ensemble cast. Now, we usually just get these stories. We get quotes with this. He is quoted in this, so this is a sure thing. He says, "I'm rewriting it," Lee told Variety in an interview promoting Beef. "It's the whole squad again. Jake asked me if I would come on board. I probably should have taken a break, but there's a lot of themes and exciting things about this movie. I couldn't help but sign on." He added, "It's truly an honor to be a part of the Marvel thing. It is very different. One, it's not my project, it's Jake's. It's such a large scope and scale, and this types of writing is very different. At the same time, the process feels the same. I'm still talking to Jake every day. I think once you find the squad of people and love and trust the most talented, you do everything you can to keep working with them. And Thunderbolts is scheduled to be released in theaters July 26, 2024 at the time of this recording. A lot of secrecy. Stephen Yeun's role is totally unknown, but we've talked about on the show. Rumors are that he has been cast as the Sentry. Again, it hasn't started filming. They're not there yet. We've got one writer. He's doing a rewrite of it. Doesn't mean that they may take some ideas from what Eric Pearson put out there, but this is not like, oh my gosh, Thunderbolts is in trouble. This is standard. This happens. They've still got plenty of time to do this, and we're all expecting probably Thunderbolts is getting delayed anyways, regardless of this new writer coming in.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about him. I looked at his IMDb and I'm like, okay, has worked on random sitcoms that I have seen some episodes of, but I couldn't tell you what episodes I saw of them and who worked on them. Fine. The big thing to me there is, oh, this is a new writer taking over, starting over. Oh, they got time. This is the time to do that. Like, better to do it now than when you're 70, 80% done into shooting. So, we don't need a Rogue One or whatever. Granted, Rogue One worked out, but they kind of got away with one there. So I'm fine with all this. And I agree that they are likely going to delay this, which is super disappointing because the Thursday for premiere night of what it would be happens to be my birthday. So I'm like, oh, great. I'd love to go see a new Marvel movie on my birthday. I'll get over it. No big deal.
Yeah, I've seen Silicon Valley. I was a big fan of the show. I think the first season, the final episode, I'm just going to say that final episode, the discussion between all the tech guys, it's epic. It's definitely not safe for work. So, I'm not going to go ahead there, but it's definitely one of my favorite comedies. And the fact that he was, I didn't know who he was, but now hearing that he's done that, I said, okay, obviously this is, he trusts him. He's worked with the director before. He's worked with Stephen Yeun before. So I'm willing to give it a shot and see what happens. So, but yeah, so that is all the news for this week. And we're going to take probably our final ad break as we get into listener feedback, Factor Fictions, and our new comic book club. So listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, Brent, you put out the Spidey signal for questions. What did we get this week?
All right, first up from DC Outlaw, who I mentioned earlier. Do you think if Daredevil Born Again is successful, we'll get more and longer series like it as a flagship show for a year plus a couple special presentations, as opposed to multiple 6 to 9 episode shows a year? So basically, like one show with even more episodes like that 18, or do you think they'll stick with the multiple different shows?
I think this is a special case. I wouldn't say it's a one and done. I think this is a test case for the idea. I will go on though. Majority will be 6 to 9 episodes because again, they have to keep new content out there. They have to keep putting out content. 6 to 9 episodes allows them, even though yes, I know Iger's reeling in. I'm not talking about they have to keep on putting out content, but 18 episodes limits what they can do, ties up money, ties up all different production companies, things like that. 6 to 9 episodes allows it to be spread out and allows them to also to introduce new characters with season 1s or special presentations.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of the same thing, but on the opposite end of the spectrum as Werewolf by Night and the Guardians Holiday Special. Mm-hmm. It's an experiment. See what they do with it. And one thing that's worth noting is not that there's not CGI in the street level heroes like Daredevil. There absolutely is, but it's not to the same extent that we just saw in Quantumania. It's not even the same extent as something probably like Ms. Marvel, or even, I'm guessing, even what Moon Knight ended up being.
True.
With that kind of lets them have more content to fill, weeks on Disney Plus for less money potentially. And they can reuse sets and that type of thing. Like a show like Daredevil is going to lend itself to a number of scenes and, the law offices of Nelson and Murdoch, or whatever his lawyer status in the office he's working for at the time. A number of scenes in Kingpin's base of operation, right? And you can spread that kind of thing out over 18 episodes. You can build these sets and really get a lot of mileage out of them.
Mhm.
So it feels like, frankly, it feels like a really great cost-cutting measure. Not that you I know that's boring. Oh, it's just about the money. It's so dry, but it is a factor. It is part of it. Now, I actually think that stuff is super interesting, but it is part of it. So I think this is an experiment. If this goes well, I wouldn't be surprised to see more of it, but I'm never going to expect to see it with somebody that is super special effect heavy, right? Like we're not going to get 18 episodes of the Guardians of the Galaxy or even She-Hulk. We're not going to get 8 of She-Hulk where, you have to tons of CGI in She-Hulk because of your main character. We're not getting 18 episodes of that, but something like this, maybe if they wanted to do something with the Punisher or a different thing with Echo, or maybe they will bring in Jessica Jones or something like that, they could absolutely do it.
Yeah, and again, think about Daredevil being 18 episodes. We just kind of talked about the start of the show, the rumors of Kingpin and the possible effects before, during, and after Daredevil Born Again. There's a reason they're putting this out in 18 episodes. We've already talked about the rumored return of John Bernthal. We've got other characters they're going to be bringing into this, the connections they're trying to make. They want to give, some people have complained many times, including our good buddy Travis Snell, talking about, and we've also complained as well, tying to this whole 6-episode stuff. We have voiced our concerns about kind of pigeonholing it to that. I know She-Hulk was 9 episodes. WandaVision was 9 episodes, but don't tie it. Tell the story you need to tell. Don't do it just because the episode count. Like, this is a huge step in a very different direction with 18 episodes. But if this is the case, saying tell the story, spread it out.
Let me add on to that. Follow the Mandalorian's lead on that. Because they'll have one episode that's 30 minutes long, and the next one could be 45 or 50 minutes long.
Well, that also ticks off some people, too.
It does, but I think that ticks off people who are like, no, it's not 50 minutes. I'm not getting my money's worth. But not every story needs 50 minutes. True. Not every story needs 45. Some stories need more than 30. I feel if the length fits the story, then it's fine. And I'm okay with that. I don't need this. This isn't network television where we're getting 22 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So they all have to be in that 42 to 44 minute time slot. Just play with it's streaming. Take advantage of the advantages that you don't have to fill in those kind of things.
Yeah, Amari Daniels saying thinks Moon Knight worked with 6 episodes. I'll be the one that says I would have liked one more episode to flesh out something.
I can see that. Yeah. And just to be clear, like sometimes you do need more time, because I know someone right now is thinking, but what about what you said with What If, where I said every single episode felt 5 to 7 minutes too short? That's one where they felt too short. Like just play to the story. Play to the story. So I personally love what The Mandalorian does with that. So
Yep.
All right. Next up from Amari Daniels.
There we go.
If X-Men 97 is a hit, would you like to see other Marvel animated properties like the Fantastic Four or any of the Spider-Man series return? I keep holding on to hope that the Spectacular Spider-Man will get that 3rd season. Isn't there a weird rights thing with that? I'm gonna have to look that up now.
You're one, or Mr. Hines would be the one who might know that off the top of their head. So I'll defer to you all as you look that up. But we're getting eventually Spider-Man freshman year. I'd be very hard-pressed to think that if that's successful, we're going to get a completely separate Spider-Man show that is of the same guys.
Sony owns it, by the way.
Okay, Sony owns it. Okay. Would I turn it down? No, I just finished. I've watched the Spectacular Spider-Man. I never watched it first run. So with Hines was doing it for the Animation Nation. That was my first chance to watch it all at that point. And I agree. It's very unfortunate that show did not kind of continue on afterwards. There was a lot of good potential with it. I think there's something very special about X-Men 97, that there's a reason it's coming back the way it is.
The definitive X-Men. Okay.
Yeah.
Travis Hines, I need you to fast forward 30 seconds.
Uh-oh.
I never actually finished Spectacular Spider-Man Season 2. in season 1, and it was good. I just
Blasphemy.
never got to
Blasphemy.
season 2. Okay, Travis, you're good. You can come back. Other shows that I think Spectacular Spider-Man, from what I've seen of it, is a good pick, but legally, I confirmed it. Like, basically, it was coming out. Sony had the licensing stuff for that particular show.
Mhm.
When Disney got the TV rights back, they axed Spectacular Spider-Man, and that's when the Ultimate Spider-Man show came on. And I know people right now are, gosh, oh, that show sucks. It's for kids. I'm going to tell you that show doesn't suck because it's for kids. If you watch that with a kid, it's a totally different experience, and it's a much more fun show. When I first tried to watch Ultimate Spider-Man, I thought, well, this isn't for me. I don't like this one bit. When I watched it with my son, who was probably 4 at the time when we first started watching it, he loved it. Loved it.
I mean, my kids watch Spidey and His Amazing Friends. I am not a fan of that show. There's a number of things that annoy me about the show, but you know what? It's not for me. It's for my kids.
I cannot get my son, who's turned 7 soon, to watch that one. Like, he has no interest in that one.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, Miles is right there. You love Miles. That's your guy. But I thought, well, maybe it's just too young for him, and so he doesn't like it. But he really liked the young, whatever it was, the Young Jedi Star Wars show that came out the other day, like 3 animated shorts. Sorry, Kate, I don't remember what it is. Katie, he liked it. They were fun. We'll definitely watch more of them when they come out. Katie said they come out in April, so
yeah.
But regardless, other shows I would like to see. Is it too obvious to say Spider-Man from the same time period that's connected to the same universe? Because I'm a sucker for a shared universe.
Yeah, and it would be interesting to keep because they're definitely trying to keep the animation style of X-Men '97.
Oh yeah,
So it'd be interesting just because I like the animated Spider-Man and I'm nostalgic for it. So, those episodes are pretty rough animation now in today's standards. I think that one deserves to come. If it does to come back, they need to kind of keep it in a way, but also they really need to upgrade it.
Keep the character designs, but upgrade the animation.
Yeah,
would be what I would do. But I think that one is totally out. Like, not going to happen until Spider-Man freshman year and the reaction to that comes out. Because I don't think they're going to have 2 animated Spider-Mans at the same time across the Spider-Verse, notwithstanding. He mentions the Fantastic Four. That's kind of a fun time. There was like Fantastic Four, Hulk, Iron Man. None of them quite matched up as good as the big 4: Superman, Batman, X-Men, Spider-Man. But it's kind of a fun one. I'll go ahead and throw out this Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That was a great. I didn't love all the character designs. That's blasphemy. I'm sorry. It's just the truth. I actually think the designs in Avengers Assemble is better. Sorry, I said it. But the storytelling on Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes is definitely the superior of the 2 shows. And I'd be very interested if they brought that back. Even if just leave the character designs, that's fine. I think it'd be interesting if they brought that one back.
Yeah. So it's one of those, like you said, it's not because, the general audience can't handle, won't be able to understand, 2 Spider-Man animated shows. No, I think the only way you get 2 different animated shows involving Spider-Man is different age audiences. That's the only way I think at this point you get two of those. So
I think Spider-Man freshman year would effectively have to fail for the. I could be wrong, but I feel like there is a for specifically for that Spider-Man. And I'm sorry, Heinz, I know how much you want to see it again. I think specifically for that Spider-Man, your best bet at getting to see him again is in X-Men '97.
Yep. So, all right, and I think we got one more question.
We did, from Rich. Just got Marvel Unlimited not too long ago. Any good story arcs on the Hobgoblin? And what are your overall thoughts on Secret Wars from 2015? Thinking about checking that out.
Well, welcome. I know you're a newer listener, Rich, and congratulations on getting Marvel Unlimited. It is a money that it is well spent at that point. There's so much content that you will more than justify the monthly or annual fee. But there's a great feature on there, and I don't know if your search feature, whenever you go into search, you can literally look up Hobgoblin, and when you search, you'll see off to the side character, and it will kind of point you. Now, Hobgoblin has a very convoluted history in the sense, not just the first one, but the subsequent. There are other people who take up the mask of the Hobgoblin. What I'll say for some plugs for some good reads is. First, the first appearance of it, Amazing Spider-Man 238 and 239, 244 to 245, him battling during the search for Osborn's formula, and him joining with the Rose. Hobgoblin and the Rose are a big kind of combo, and that would be Amazing Spider-Man 259 to 261, and I will end it with the gang war setting up the penultimate Spider-Man Hobgoblin battle, 284 to 288. A lot of these are from Roger Stern. Uncle Roger Stern is one of the co-creators of the Hobgoblin, and his run is epic at that point. But those would be my kind of classic Hobgoblin kind of things to look up.
I'm just going to add on to a couple things to that. One, in general, like I know the Geekverse guys were kind of talking about it and stuff. Hobgoblin, like you look at him and you think, oh, he's the super villain. He's got his henchmen. He does this thing. He is often the henchman. He's like you mentioned the Rose. He is often like the main lieutenant towards like the crime boss. And like that's kind of an area that a shtick that he has plays pretty well. In the 90s Spider-Man cartoon we were just talking about, he works for the Kingpin actually in that for a bit. I'll go ahead and mention that the current arc of the Amazing Spider-Man, which if you look it up, it is the Amazing Spider-Man dated 2022 to the present in Marvel Unlimited. Hobgoblin is in there. Like, well, I mean, he's not in the whole run, but he is a big part. Like of Marvel Unlimited, he's a big part right now. Keep in mind, Marvel Unlimited is 3 months behind. So, and that series is just getting to the dark web stuff. So I don't know how much Hobgoblin's involved in dark web. Don't tell me. I'm reading it on Marvel Unlimited. But okay, great. He's not. Whatever.
We don't talk about dark web.
You don't talk about dark web. I haven't finished it yet, so I can't. I may join you in a few months, but I'm not with you yet.
Yep.
But Hobgoblin, like just current Hobgoblin stuff is, and they definitely remind the reader of, oh, there was more than one. There's been more than one Hobgoblin. So interesting character, and Marvel Unlimited's fantastic. It's worth noting if you have the annual plan of $70 a month. If you read 18 issues, that would have cost like $4 an issue, which is pretty much everything now. You've covered it for the year, right? It's like you've covered the year. So I know this year I've read like 8 years worth of comics if you measure it by that standpoint. You from Marvel have probably read even more than that.
Yeah, but I'm finally. I started got back into reading Daredevil currently with Zdarsky doing Dark Reign. So I have not read Zdarsky when he jumped on. So I'm finally finished Soul this past weekend. So now I'm going to read Zdarsky this weekend.
For the first time?
For the first time.
Oh, the jealousy is strong right now. I look forward to hearing what you think about that. I expect some messages.
Yes, definitely.
I'm really enjoying that one. But I love Marvel Unlimited. Don't get me wrong. I will rip it apart from a UI perspective and from a usability thing because they've got some quirks to them that could be certainly better.
DC Universe Infinite has got their number with the UI.
I completely agree. But the fundamental service of Netflix for Marvel comic books works, and it's great. New comic books officially it's on Mondays. You can usually get them on Sunday nights at 11 Central, so midnight Eastern. Like you can usually see what's on there. Every Monday, for me, Monday is New Comic Book Day. It's weird. It used to be Wednesdays, but I love it.
But yeah, one final issue I'll plug is the end of the original run of the revelation of who Hobgoblin is. Amazing Spider-Man number 289 reveals who Hobgoblin is at that point. So I'll leave it at that. But enjoy all that. Rich, thank you for writing in.
If you don't know, don't look it up. Just go read the stories and find out.
But welcome to Marvel Alliance. Thank you for writing in. And your other question, thoughts on overall Secret Wars 2015? Actually, Brent and I covered that with Comic Book Club. So if you want to check recently, so if you want to go back a couple of episodes, we give our thoughts. But I think we enjoyed it. I had a fonder look at it when I originally did it than this run. I didn't necessarily hate it, but I think that I wanted a little bit more out of it, and so I'm looking forward to see what they take from that as they're homaging it in the MCU Secret Wars.
It's important to remember that's from Jonathan Hickman.
Yes.
Jonathan Hickman can be a little extra. He can be a little convoluted, and sometimes it can be a little hard to follow. But man, when that guy is on, he is on. Mm-hmm. I would say if you're interested in reading it, it's worth your time to read.
Yes, definitely. I definitely, despite that, like it's not my top 10, but it is very good. And just seeing all these characters interact from different universes was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's important also to remember that this was at a time when the Ultimate line of books was a separate universe. And hey, if you read it, if you haven't read it yet, you can find out about the universe's most important hamburger or cheeseburger. So.
And be careful with the tie-ins. I think that's probably one of the biggest books to have infinite number of tie-ins, and it gets crazy. So
Yeah, I personally, I kind of am thinking I may just read all the dark web tie-ins just to
don't do
just to
it.
really
Don't
get to you.
do it. Don't
Like
do it.
just looking at what I got coming
It's not
up,
going to
I'm
get
like,
to me.
I'm like, well, I don't care, whatever. But
I know.
I'm
Yeah,
not
it's not going to
paying
get to
for 'em.
me.
But dark web, Mary Jane, and Black Cat. I'm like, all right, let's see what you got. But I haven't read it yet, but I'll probably read it sometime next week. But it's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to know, at least for me, most Marvel events, I like the main story, but all the tie-ins are super hit and miss. So
Yes, they are.
Don't feel guilty if you only stick to the main titles.
Yeah, that's all you really do, and you'll see these little references. Also, see this, like we just did it with Spider-Verse. There were a bunch of tie-ins with that. If we're curious about it, which I am, I will read that as well. So, but yeah, enjoy Marvel Unlimited. Hope that helps you in your Hobgoblin deep dive. So
yeah, let us know what you think about it.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right, let us get to Fact or Fiction poll results. So, as you pull up your Fact or Fictions next.
I got them ready.
All right. So, the poll results as follows. Here we go. So, number 1, we will get at least one MCU show with an announced season 2 this year, not counting What If season 2 and X-Men 97 season 2. 55% said fact, 45% said fiction. Number 2, we will get a full slate of Phase 6 announced at SDCC this year. 21% said fact, 79% said fiction. They're all in agreement with us, Brent. Not going to happen. We'll get maybe some, but not all. And finally, Riri Williams, a.k.a. Ironheart, will appear in Armor Wars. 95% said fact, 5% said fiction.
Well, before I go into these, but I'd like that was your last one because that'll tie nicely to my first one. We should acknowledge that allegedly Twitter is doing away with public polls unless you are a Twitter Blue subscriber. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but I'm not subscribing to Twitter Blue. I'll tell you that much. So I'm not.
Marvel Alliance will also not be paying $8 to become verified.
That's right. So we don't know what we're going to do. We'll cross that bridge when Twitter actually follows through on that statement. Okay, first up, you just ended with one about Riri Williams appearing in Armor Wars. What I've had down is Don Cheadle will appear in Ironheart, specifically trying to dissuade her from following in Tony's footsteps.
Yeah, I'll go fact. I mean, he's pairing in Secret Invasion. This is not a too hard stretch. He's appeared in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Don Cheadle is definitely not above appearing in a streaming series.
And it feels like something that would be really easy for them to film on either set. Like they could do it at any time. And so, yeah, I'm a fact on that one as well.
If they can film cameos across countries over Zoom, then gosh darn it, we can get this happening.
You're not wrong. All right, number 2. By the end of Phase 6, just because I needed a deadline, a character who has never held Thor's hammer will pick it up.
By the end of Phase 6?
Yeah. A character who has never held Thor's hammer will pick it up.
So you get a Captain America, and Thor, I knew it, an Endgame moment, basically.
More or less. So, like, if Steve Rogers was back and picked it up, well, that doesn't count. He's picked it up before.
Yep, I know.
But if Kamala Khan were to pick it up, well, that counts because she's never held it before. I'm actually thinking Beta Ray Bill for the record.
Oh, God, yes.
But just saying, it doesn't have to be that.
Don't give me hope. Don't tease me like that.
I know. You want it.
I want it so badly. Yeah, I'll say fact. It's like a 51, 52% just because it in my mind, it's going to be maybe a alternate version of someone at that point being a Thor. So would that count or no?
I've gone back and forth on that, and I guess to me, if it's Thor Odin's son, I wouldn't count it. But if it was a different Thor, Jane, Beta Ray Bill, whatever, then maybe. If it was an alternate Thor but picking up the prime timeline Thor's hammer, maybe then that would count.
Well, wait a minute. Does Throg already count? Because we already got Throg.
Well, the Throg wasn't holding the hammer though, was he?
Yeah.
I don't think Throg was holding. I don't think we've seen it. We'd have to go confirm that, but I don't think Throg was holding the hammer, and I think we will see somebody new with hammer in hand.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm there for it, so yeah, I'll be fact on that.
All right, and finally, Across the Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm.
in that movie, in Across the Spider-Verse, Miles' parents will find out that he is Spider-Man.
I'll also say fact on that. I think the trailer that we have seen, which we're hearing rumors, Brent and I might be getting a trailer next week, which
Yes,
would be
please. Yes, please.
amazing.
I want it. I want it.
Pun intended. The way the opening, his mom talking to him and the way she's talking to him, I want to say like we're thinking maybe she knows, but also could be misdirect. But I could say that one or both of the parents will find out.
I believe, I'm going to say fiction. I believe by the end of Beyond the Spider-Verse that they will know. To me, that feels more like a third act thing, a third part of the story thing. And, I'm just going to be a little contrarian. So I'm going to say fiction in this one. But regardless, I look forward to seeing the interactions when it happens. And if so, I almost want Jefferson to think back to that moment at the end of the first movie when Spider-Man looks at him and said he loved him. I want him to think back on that.
There we go. I do like S-Bub saying another Emmy nomination for Don Cheadle for a one-scene appearance.
Which was super weird, but for the record, it fit, like he qualified in that category. Like there's certain rules he qualified in that category that other guest stars didn't qualify. Everyone's like, he got it for this and they didn't get it for that. It's like, well, no, they didn't qualify. Like it's just there's different, but still one scene that I wouldn't have given it to him.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, so yeah, I'll put those out there on a Sunday afternoon. So make sure to let your voices be heard and let us get into we will call this the prologue of Secret Invasion, in which we are looking at 4 issues, probably the most issues we've looked at in a single
ever. To me, ever. Maybe I'm forgetting to do with Snell back in the day, but for me, ever.
Yeah, I definitely don't remember like doing 4 issues at once, but I could be wrong. But yeah, we are looking at New Avengers 31, Mighty Avengers number 7, New Avengers number 34, and New Avengers Illuminati issue 5. So, how do you want to tackle this, Brent? I know we should have probably talked about this offline, but we had a little technical difficulties to get online tonight. So
yeah, I had to reboot my computer. I know. I feel that we could probably go kind of broad.
Okay,
and the thing I want to say that to me is in every single one of these issues is the tension. The tension. Who do you trust? Right? That was the ad campaign back then for this. The tension is just there. Maybe it's not as strong in the first New Avengers, but until the very end when they find out Elektra's not who she says she is. but the tension among them, it really does make you want to just keep reading.
Oh yeah, and the revelation, like they're trying to rescue. I mean, again, this comes in a arc at that point that no one was expecting the arc was going to end in that way. With they're trying to rescue Echo from the hand, and when they get Echo to snap out of it, at that point she's going after Elektra, and then she stabs Elektra, and they're just all in shock, saying. And you kind of see it on the panel. Like I remember I particularly noticing it during my read of this the other day. Like you see in the shadow of her ear as she's falling down, it's changing. And as I'm catching something. And then you see the body is not Elektra Nachios. It is a Skrull. And that's when it just calls it that. And I remember, I mean, you don't see the variant cover issue in Marvel Unlimited, but the reprint, the second print run, because of how much this particular issue sold, they gave the revelation on the cover at that point. They just basically did it in her and Skrull form, but it was just like, oh my God, what has just happened? It was a huge shockwave in the community. Just what is going on? How long has this been happening? Who is a Skrull?
That's a great question, and one I think we'll be asking quite a bit. I really enjoyed when Jessica Drew takes the Skrull body, just to Tony, and it's like, we got a problem right now. Okay, yeah. I gotta ask you to look at something. Do you have it pulled up? Do you have Marvel Limited? Yeah. I mean, I know you have it, but in front of you. Okay. Yep. Look at New Avengers 34 for me.
Okay.
Tell me how many pages it is.
It says 20 pages.
Okay, 20 pages. If you look at the details of this issue, it says it's 32 pages. The only thing I can think of is there was a backup story they didn't include for some reason.
Or a lot of ads.
Or it's just a mistake or whatever. But it's just really weird that it said 32 pages. I've seen smaller discrepancies before, but never one that was that many pages.
Mhm.
Because I will tell you, when I saw that, I changed when I read this issue. I was like, I don't think I have time for 32 pages right now. So I didn't read it. I went, I was like, oh, I totally would have had time. But
Yeah, I mean the Mighty Avengers issue was, I think, my least favorite at this point. It's kind of just more of them kind of talking about what had happened more
mhm,
than doing anything really outside of what they're kind of leading towards with a symbiote invasion. Um, Not New Avengers, the Mighty Avengers,
Mighty
excuse me,
Avengers, sure.
Mighty Avengers. Um, Actually, no. Now I'm all confused right now. It actually it's that New Avengers 34. That's the one I was kind of least favorite. Mighty Avengers, that's what it is. Mighty Avengers I really like because of what you said. Jessica bringing this girl to
Mhm.
Tony. It's like, what are we gonna do about this? And then she's like, I don't know if I can trust you. Talk about, like, prove to me that you're not a Skrull. And being as good as Jessica Drew is, she's a spy, she's a double agent, she's a triple agent. You don't her allegiances. It's always hard to tell.
You know, the one you didn't like as much, New Avengers 34,
Mhm.
I did get a kick out of the scene where Doctor Strange does the spell and it's like shows everyone how they see themselves.
Okay, yeah.
So shows herself as Daredevil, Luke Cage back in the old Power Man costume. But the one that I think was the funniest is Clint Barton sees himself as Captain America.
Yeah, you gotta shoot for the fences. But I will tell you this: besides the New Avengers 31, the Illuminati issue was
Yes,
it was
yes.
it is a perfect issue to read before Secret Invasion #1 because this group has been called together again, and they just said we've got a problem, and the question is, like, how long have they been here? How long we told them in the Korean Skull War, you step foot on here, you're igniting a battle you don't want to wage again. And then Black Bolt actually speaks, and it's like, wait a minute, what's going on? And it ends up being a super scroll.
Yeah, the Illuminati is such a fun concept, and I really enjoy the Bendis talking head issues,
Hmm.
and a lot of the Illuminati is that. And so obviously, eventually the old fisticuffs do break out, but there's just a lot of talking, a lot of posturing, a lot of like, oh, you actually came. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I do enjoy it, and that was my favorite of the four that we read.
Yeah, it is the debate that they have. Like, we allowed this to happen, and we didn't notice the signs, and it just, again, we're reading this because we know we're getting Secret Invasion as of officially. I think we can officially say Disney has revealed that June 21st.
Well, June 21st is what the screenshot going around Twitter said. When I looked it up on Disney Plus on my own device, I pulled it up on my iPad. It
Uh,
still just said coming soon.
okay, so we can't say officially, but all signs are pointing to, and the 21st is a Wednesday. I'm assuming, right?
I didn't even look because I didn't see. I would have, but I didn't when I didn't see it. But it is worth noting that June does kind of fit the some rumors we've heard of. I heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy,
Hmm.
and so maybe. But how far back does that go? I don't know. If it's in June, okay, well that's fine. I can wait.
Yeah.
I'm patient. I can wait for it. And I would like Guardians to have some time to itself. Like, as much fun as it is for me personally, I think it's better for the projects when they have separation so the focus can be on the Guardians. As long as there's room for everything else and we don't really log jam the end of the year, I'm okay with it.
Yep. And yes, the 21st is a Wednesday. So, all right. Well, next week we will start officially Secret Invasion #1. It is 8 issues, so we got 8 weeks of going through Secret Invasion. It's definitely one of my favorite events from Marvel. And again, who do you trust? And who? The question we will be talking about each week is the revelations of who is a Skrull, who is not a Skrull, what's going to be happening. So, all right. Well, another good episode, 157, a good jam-packed news episode, Rumor Mill. So hope you all enjoyed that. And we want to thank our official sponsor, organicpricebooks.com, for all their omnibus collected edition needs. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. Brent, tell people how they can follow you.
Yeah, if you go to brentech.social, that's got links to where you can find me on various social media.
Gotcha. And you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. We dropped a new episode this week covering new guest at that point, Patrick, owner of Legacy Comics. He broke down with me Daredevil, Guardian Devil.
So good, so good. Pretty sure that's my actual favorite Daredevil comic book story.
Yeah, so
good.
So definitely check that out. He's a great guest. Lots of stuff that he's doing some great work with his comics. Again, he's done a lot of first time I'd met him through a mutual at that point. But yeah, check that out, that episode. You can follow this show on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GWAPod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask Factor Fictions. All our DMs are open. Continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed or on the GWA Network feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you all for joining us in chat. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent, post-credits discussion. We actually had planned on this, but then we got a question from a good friend, good listener, Phil at Unfiltered, saying, what is the collective group thought on Ike Perlmutter finally being shown the door? So yes, ladies and gentlemen, Disney is unfortunately having to do some layoffs, and this is the first phase of them. There'll be 3 phases of them, but the first layoffs came down this week. And one of the people that did get laid off is Isaac Perlmutter, famously the famous chairman of Marvel Entertainment, who is controversial within his own right. We'll get into that a little bit later. He has been let go. He has been fired at that point. And Marvel Entertainment, which is separate from Marvel Studios, is being absorbed into other units of Disney. Now, Brent, can you tell our listeners, like, what specifically does Marvel Entertainment do?
Basically everything Marvel Studios doesn't. Okay. It's really the way it boils down to. So your comics are under Marvel Entertainment. Mm-hmm. Your television shows that are not Marvel Studios are under Marvel Entertainment. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Was Marvel Entertainment. The Inhumans was Marvel Entertainment. All the other shows from that time period, Cloak and Dagger, Runaways, etc. That, and then of course the animated stuff that they've done and comic books, right? Like comic books, the Marvel Entertainment.
Yep. Disney confirmed the move that Mr. Perlmutter was told by phone on Wednesday that Marvel Entertainment was redundant and would be folded into the larger business units, according to the 2 Disney executives briefed on the matter who spoke on the condition of anonymity. So he wasn't even brought to the office. He was fired by phone.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't give him the opportunity to retire and say, you're out, like we're going to let you go, but if you would like to officially retire instead, so the record books can show that. But you know what? We're not exactly Ike Perlmutter's biggest fan. So no. Phil says, what's the collective group thought? Okay, great. He's gone. About time. Why did it take this long? And I feel bad for saying that about someone who's lost a job, but I also know he's 80 years old. He's not exactly hurting for money. Let the man retire. Let him retire in peace. I don't wish ill upon him, but stay the hell away from Marvel.
Yeah, he is. A lot of stories have come out. He has butted heads many times with Kevin Feige. He, as many stories have pointed to, he is one of the biggest reasons why we did not get Black Panther, earlier than we did.
Same with Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel. A Black Widow focused movie,
changing the villain in Iron Man 3 because women or female action figures don't sell. Mm-hmm. Like you can't buy enough toys of them. So
if you listen to our Patreon breakdown of with Civil War that we just put out there, I go into how he didn't want Robert Downey Jr. in there because he was going to cost too much and wanted him to be written out completely. He has controversial political opinions, depending on what side of the aisle you are at that point. But he is responsible for closing the deal to have Marvel be bought by Disney for $4 billion at that point.
So credit where it's due. We'll give him that because I think that worked out pretty well for him. Some people would disagree. Regardless, I'm not sorry he's gone. So
yes,
that said, there were other Marvel people who were also let go.
7,000.
well, 7,000 Disney. There were other Marvel specific, and I do feel bad for them and their families.
Yes, this one individual. Sorry, not sorry. Everyone else, I hope you all find a way to land on your feet. This is just the beginning of 2 other phases of it. About 4% of their global total, $5.5 billion in cuts. But yeah, I Perlmutter, again, we can't ignore what positives you did bring to Marvel Studios, but there's a lot of negatives that just doesn't sit right with Brent and I. So we are not unhappy to see you go. But for everyone else, we hope you land on your feet, and hopefully it does not take too long. But all right, well, that is our post credits, and we will see you next week. Maybe a new trailer breakdown. We'll have to see. Talk to y'all later. Bye bye.